We have call to order for the organizational meeting. I invite everybody to stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance in honor of our flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mamie, can you do roll call?
Ms. Slattery?
Here.
Mr. Detzel?
Here.
Mr. Gilbert?
Here.
Mr. Heather?
Here.
Ms. Talby?
Here. All right, and then can I have a motion for approval of the agenda
So moved.
in a second?
Second?
All right, and that passes unopposed. And we'll start first with nomination of the president.
Nominate you, Nancy, as president for the upcoming year, 2025.
Second.
All right, are there any other nominations? And then and then we can vote. All right, and that passes with one abstaining.
I believe it's a no.
I oppose. Oh, I'm sorry, I misread that, with one no. 4 approvals, 1 no. I, Nancy Slattery, do hereby affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
And the Constitution of the State of Ohio.
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
And I faithfully
and I faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
perform the duties of President
perform the duties of President
of the Board of Education
of the Board of Education
of the Northwest Local School
of the Northwest Local School District
in Hamilton County, Ohio,
in Hamilton County, Ohio,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and in accordance with the laws
and in accordance with the laws
now in effect
now in effect
and hereafter
and hereafter
to be enacted.
to be enacted
During my continuance in said office
during my continuance in said office
and until my successor
is elected and qualified.
Nancy?
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And now I call for nomination of the vice president. I nominate Chris Heather.
Second.
All right, and that passes 3-2.
Christopher Lee,
I, Christopher Heather,
do hereby affirm
do hereby affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio.
and I will faithfully
I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
perform the duties of Vice President
and perform the duties of Vice President
of the Board of Education
of the Board of Education
of Northwest Local School
of
District
the Northwest Local School District,
in Hamilton County, Ohio,
Hamilton County, Ohio,
to the best of my ability
and to the best of my ability,
and in accordance with the laws
in accordance with the laws
now in effect
now in effect
and hereafter to be enacted
and hereafter to be enacted
during my continuance in said office
during my continuance in said office
and until my successor
until my successor
is elected.
is elected and qualified. Thank you.
And next, we all have had the opportunity to review the time and place located in location for the established board meetings for the coming year, and it is also in the attachment. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I've asked, excuse me, in the previous meeting, I had asked that we add 30 minutes before the meeting for 2 board members to be available to speak with community members. I don't know if we want to put that on there or how we want to communicate that to the community. I don't mind setting up a spreadsheet and that we can all add what days we want to do it. Or I don't mind being one of the people that's here every time, but how do we want to move forward?
We added it on the actual PDF on here that there will be 30 minutes set aside before every meeting, starting in February on.
Okay.
And then we'll just need the board to organize which members are going to be there starting in February. So it is on our notice, and we will put that out to the public now that it's approved.
Okay, I appreciate that. How does everyone want to handle the signups of that?
Well, I think I can send out something to everyone with the dates of the meeting and ask people to volunteer for
Okay.
which dates they want to cover.
Sure.
Would it be easier to do like a month at a time? Like,
I think it'd be easier to do a month at a time.
Mhm.
yeah, that's probably, instead of switching every meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah,
I'll forget. Well, I would, I would too, being honest.
yeah. So I'll just send
Sounds
something out to see which month each
It would
person
backfire.
would like.
We're here for people and then we don't show up.
Right.
So what does, when you learned about that up at OSBA, what, did they walk through like what that looks like? Are we in a different room and they can come into a different room? Is it just in a corner of the room that we're working in? Because I guess once you guys start demoing this, we'll be in the schools. So.
Yeah, so we could just have a sign and kind of like we did for Schoolhouse Talks, and just have it kind of at a table, like if we're in the lunchroom or wherever. And then, those 2 board members can be there, and that way, it's open discussion, but it doesn't look like any kind of meeting. That would be my suggestion.
Yep. And then we'll have our senior leadership team available so that if someone does come with an issue that is more pertinent to a private discussion, we'll be able to get them connected to someone that can help them on the
Yeah,
spot.
that'd be great, yeah. And that way, it's just those 2 board members at the table,
Yeah.
nobody else.
Yeah, and then we'll be their support if someone
I mean,
needs.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I mean, no other board
Yeah,
members, sorry.
yeah, but we'll be there to support, so if there are issues or concerns that are student-specific or need to be more private, we can have someone there that can support them.
Okay, great, thank you.
Another recommendation they had made at that meeting was if you're doing it at one of the meetings, was if you're doing it at different schools, is possibly offering tours of the school to members of the community. I don't know if that's something that's possible. They mentioned student-led tours, but obviously I think it depends on the school and the age of the students, but I don't know if anybody was interested in that either.
Yeah, we can work with the principals of the sites we're going to be at and offer tours, and they can be there to just kind of highlight some of the accomplishments of the schools and the things they want people to know about.
Yeah,
I think we should have the preschool.
it's a great idea.
It'd be an interesting tour.
Greatest tour of all time. But I'm excited about that.
All right, and that passes without opposition. And as far as for Student Achievement Liaison, I would like to nominate Nicole Tawby for that.
Second?
No votes coming up. We don't have to actually vote on that. No votes coming up on the screen.
It might be, did you plug it in?
We never used to vote on that, Amy, up until
Yeah, you do.
this term.
There's no option to just plug in a name. Doesn't have a drop-down box or let me type anything in. Can we just do a manual
Is
vote?
the
then?
next one, because it says voting in progress?
Did you guys get anything up there?
Yeah, all four of us have.
Oh,
voted.
yeah.
Everyone's voted, except for Nancy.
I don't have it on mine. Where's that? All right, and that passes 5-0. All right, and for legislative liaison,
I nominate Chris Heather.
Well, you can't have officer and that, Mark.
Can?
We've never done it that way.
You can do
You
that.
can,
Well,
you can.
I'm going to decline it. I've done it so many years. I'll nominate Mark Gilbert.
I'll second that.
It's easier than trying to pronounce kids' names.
I know most of them.
I know, I was say.
Well, with the way we do it now, you don't have to pronounce so many names. Since it's up on the screen, it makes life a little easier. Okay, and that passes without opposition. And then we need to have recognition of the board attorneys. And our attorneys are Dinsmore for workers' compensation and financing, Finney Law for Board of Revisions, and Ennis and Britton.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Any discussion?
Yeah, I just mentioned this before, but the Finney Law, I will never forget it. We had a near riot in here over hiring them, and we felt it was a very good move. Finney's very well respected and is on WLW many times with expert opinions on various things going on. So that was 15 years ago, and here we are 15 years later, and we still have Finney Law. So I am glad to see that that worked out as well as we had thought it might. Just wanted to bring that up.
Any other discussion? Go ahead and vote. And that passes without opposition. And then for OSBA membership dues for 2025, the amount is $9,281. And we need a motion and a second for approval of those dues.
So moved.
Second?
Amy, that 9,000 is based on head count of kids in the district?
Correct. It's actually $87 less than it was last year.
That's what I was thinking.
And that also passes unopposed. And then the OSBA Legal Assistance Fund Membership Resolution. Whereas the Northwest Local Board of Education wishes to support the efforts of other boards of education to obtain favorable judicial decisions, and whereas the School Boards Association Legal Assistance Fund has been established for this purpose, therefore the board hereby resolves to participate in the OSBA LAF for calendar year 2025 and authorizes the treasurer to pay the LAF $250. Any discussion?
Yeah, I personally have called the OSBA legal department numerous times, not a lot, probably 2-3 times in the last year. And I always get excellent counsel from them, and they're always very friendly. And perhaps, or wish the rest of the state of Ohio was as efficient as they were. They actually answer their phones up there. So I think this is a very good investment.
Great. Any other discussion? And can we get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second?
And that also passes unopposed. And next, we'll establish the Board Service Fund. The Board of Education, by resolution, sets aside each year from the general fund, a sum of money not to exceed $2 for each child enrolled in the district, or $20,000, whichever is greater.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, and that also passes unopposed. An authorization of official signatures. The Board of Education authorizes the president and the treasurer to be the official signers for payments of funds for the Board of Education, and further authorizes that one signed check on all Board of Education accounts, and that the president's signature and the treasurer's signature may be a facsimile. Any discussion? No. Can I have a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second?
And that also passes unopposed.
Can I ask a quick question? So we approved the facsimile signature. So if you sign off, is there like a monetary amount that if it's above that amount, you notify the president or?
No, the facsimile is the way our checks are printed. It's all done through electronic system. I don't physically sign any checks, so that's the facsimile.
But you're using the officer's signature, or like if there's a signature for, like Nancy would have to sign something, is she notified that you've used her electronic signature?
The only time we've used the board president's signature, I think when you're not physically notified, is on all the contracts from HR, because your signature and my signature on everybody's contract, but you previously approved them in the board meeting.
Okay.
If I need the signature, then I'm either
You usually do it before the
getting-
meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Or we've also started electronically routing them through the system, which you would receive it and sign it electronically through the system.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Authorization for the treasurer to pay bills. The Board of Education authorizes the treasurer to pay bills as they are presented within availability of funds, report all bills paid monthly to the Board of Education, and to include bills not paid due to unavailability of funds. Any discussion? Motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
And that also passes unopposed. And then next, investment of inactive and interim funds in commercial paper. The Board of Education authorizes the treasurer to invest inactive and interim funds at the most productive interest rate and according to board policy whenever inactive and interim funds are available. The Board of Education authorizes the treasurer to invest up to a maximum of 40% of the district's interim funds in either of the following: commercial paper notes issued by a for-profit corporation, business trust or association, real estate investment trust, common law trust, unincorporated business, or general or limited partnership which has assets exceeding $500,000. Any discussion?
Is that $500 million?
Oh, sorry, $500 million. Apologize there. Any other discussion? All right. And can we get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
And that motion passes unopposed as well. And next, designate for public records training per ORC 109.43B and 149.43E1. A member of the Board of Education or designee must receive 3 hours of public records training for each term of office. The Board of Education designates Elizabeth Witt for training on behalf of the Northwest Local Schools Board of Education for the current term of office. At the prerogative of the Board of Education, we designate Elizabeth Witt for public records training for the current term of office and on behalf of the Northwest Local School Boards of Education. Any discussion? And a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
All right, and that passes without opposition. And Tax Incentive Review Council designate for Hamilton County, Green Township, and Colerain Township. Per ORC Section 5709.85, the Board of Education must designate a representative to serve on the Tax Incentive Review Councils for Hamilton County, Green Township, and Colerain Township. The Board of Education designates Amy Wells and/or Elizabeth Witt. Any
So moved.
discussion? We have a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
And that also passes without opposition. And approval of student activity accounts. The Board of Education authorizes the student activity accounts to be active for fiscal years 2025 and 2026. Any discussion? A motion in a second?
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
And that passes without opposition. And appointment of the fiscal officer for student activity accounts. The Board of Education appoints the superintendent to be the sign-off officer of all student activity programs, and he shall present these programs to the Board of Education once each year. He will also have the authority to approve and/or modify the student activity budgets throughout the year. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second.
So, second.
And that also passes without opposition. And approve board member benefits pursuant to House Bill 369 dated October 17th, 1985, and resolutions number 40 to 85 dated December 9th, 1985. The current board members may exercise their option to participate in the district's employee benefit plans at the board member's expense. And that is through Anthem HDHP. Any discussion? Motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Maybe quick question. If we wanted to opt for just like a vision or the dental, can we do that, or do you have to take the whole package?
No, you can take whichever plans
A la
you
carte?
want.
Okay.
All right. right, and next will be records retention. The attached records are being presented for recognition and will be submitted for approval to destroy through this historical society as reviewed by the Records Commission earlier today. Any discussion? Motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
And that also passes without opposition. And then resolution to approve the fiscal year '26 tax budget.
Yes, so our tax budget is for fiscal year '26. The county requests that we present tax budgets for all taxing districts, starting for January of '25. We do a modified tax budget because we operate on a fiscal year where all other taxing districts operate on a calendar year. The tax budget consists of any funds that we have that collect property taxes, which is our general fund, our permanent improvement fund, and our debt service fund. So our tax budget for fiscal year '26 has $113 million for our general fund based on our 5-year forecast. Our debt service fund, principal and interest payments are $3.9 million, and our permanent improvement fund is a little over $6 million, and that's based on our capital improvement plan, which includes our 3 newer elementaries in Montford Heights. So with that, I ask the board to approve the tax budget as listed.
So moved.
Second.
And that passes without opposition. And resolution of blanket certificate.
Yes, so prior to purchase, as a Board of Education and a governmental entity in the state of Ohio, we're required to have a purchase order in place, which would be specific purchase, itemizing what is being purchased and approving the purchase order, and then can be sent to order. We can also do blanket certificates, which allow a purchase order to be put in place in advance. So if an emergency were to come up, or say like a $500 blanket, so you have something set aside if you need office supplies, someone can run out and pick those up. It's not necessarily pre-planned, but a blanket in place for those types of things. Because we have transportation, maintenance, custodial, some larger departments, we do ask that the max amount for a blanket certificate be $25,000. Most are smaller, and a blanket certificate closes after 3 months. So if it's not used, or any amount that's not used ends after 3 months, and a new blanket would have to be put in.
Is that automated, or is that a manual process that somebody goes in and looks for an unused blanket PO?
They have to, it's a process where we monitor them, and then they're closed.
Any other discussion? Can get a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
That passes without opposition. An annual fund-to-fund transfer.
Yes, so annually, we do a $60,000 transfer to help our athletic programs offset the cost of transportation. We allot $1,000 to each middle school, and then divide the difference to each high school, which is $28,500. So with that, I ask the board to approve the transfer as listed.
Any discussion? Can I have a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second?
That passes without opposition. And the rebate reward program acceptance.
Yes, so we also are required to report any rebates or rewards the district has received for the year. Last year, we were able to receive $10,000 for our PNC purchasing card. This is a card that we use to pay bills that we would typically be paying anyway, but it helps us achieve rebates. So while we're paying bills and companies accept a credit card, we're able to get that rebate back. Fisk Integrated is $10,000. This helps us with cybersecurity and theft of So all the checks are processed, that goes through Fisk, which then the company is able to then get their payment from. We're able to get $10,000 back rebate by just utilizing the service, but also being able to limit our exposure to fraud and theft. And then our EPC rebate of $27,000, using purchasing co-ops, we're able to reduce our costs in purchasing food service supplies, custodial maintenance, paper products, fuel, things like that that we buy through purchasing co-ops. But then, so we're not only receiving lower rates when we're purchasing, but we also get rebates back. And then our Kroger rewards, we do not utilize the rewards. However, we participate in the rewards program so that when our buildings and departments go to Kroger's to purchase things, they can get it at a cheaper price. So with that, I ask the board to accept the rebates and rewards as listed.
Do you know if other districts use their rewards from Kroger?
I do not.
If we found out that others did and how they used it, if there would be a way to use it, or with vehicles, I don't know what you would do with it, but.
It is also to monitor it, so how do I know who's not going to the pump and?
No, I'm saying with, like, maybe our vehicles, the vans, things like that, if there was a way that it could be used for just district vehicles. would that be
We can put a process in place because it's going to be the monitoring of it.
Mhm.
Because once they start utilizing it, how do I know what vehicle they're putting it in?
Mhm. Okay, yeah, I was
That-
just
that's,
curious if that was
one of the reasons
ever
why we
discussed.
did not was for that purpose. But we can look into
I was just
process in
curious. Yeah, I
place.
was just curious if we've ever looked at using it for district vehicles.
Any other discussion? Can I have a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
That passes without opposition. An appointment of purchasing agent?
So the board authorizes the Director of Business Services to be the designee for me for purchasing agent for the school district. The superintendent recommends the board approve the appointment of the purchasing agent as listed.
So moved.
Second?
That passes without opposition. In recognition of booster and support organizations.
So this is a list of our booster and support organizations. Through our process of monitoring compliance, we have 3 that are on a 6-month extension, and there's been some factors that have contributed to kind of transition of officers, and so we're working with them to make sure that they are complete in compliance. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education recognize the booster and support organizations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
I just want to thank all the people that run those. Those are all volunteer-led, and there's a lot of documentation and work that's required to be a part of those. So just appreciate all the work that our volunteers do to run those, and they absolutely make a difference in our schools.
Right, and that passes unopposed. And can we have a motion in a second for adjournment of the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
And the meeting is adjourned. All right, we'll call to order the regular board meeting for January 11th. Amy, could you do roll call?
Ms. Slattery?
Here.
Mr. Heather?
Here.
Mr. Detzel?
Here.
Mr. Gilbert?
Here.
Mrs. Tolby?
Here?
right, and I will read our mission statement. The Northwest Local School District will create a responsive learning community where all students are valued, challenged, and guided along a pathway to success. And can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? That passes without opposition. And
So January is designated as School Board Recognition Month by the Ohio School Board Association. So we always pause in January to say thank you to our Board of Education. There are certificates of appreciation at your place, as well as books that are on the table in front of you that you all have signed that will be donated on behalf of the board to our school libraries. And we just want to take a moment and pause and say thank you for all of the work that you do at the meetings and behind the scenes to make sure that the positive message of the district is out there and that we are continuing to do the best possible for the kids and staff of this district. So thank you for the work that you do.
thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to be part of the school board and help serve our community. Any other comments? All right, and then as far as student achievement liaison,
Because the representatives to the student liaison and the legislative were just done at the previous meeting, we'll have updates for those at the next meeting.
Recognize the students for being off for 3 weeks on this. They should be ready to go.
Yep.
in Butler Tech, any updates to
Yeah,
give?
just, we're going to hold our interviews for superintendent coming up on the 22nd of January. And there's 3 folks that we're going to interview. And then I'll come back and tell you who's going to get the job.
All right, good luck with that.
Yes.
How many applicants did you have, Jim?
It was just, we just did it internal. There's 3.
And then any reports from any employee organizations?
Not tonight, or this morning, sorry.
And community communications, I have not received anything, but our policy 0169.1 addresses public participation at board meetings, giving submission of 3 minutes to address agenda items of any topic during community comments. However, no more than 15 minutes will be devoted to public participation unless the board votes unanimously to continue the discussion. The policy also states that no response to submission will occur from the board or district during this period. There are no community comments at this time, so we will move on to the next item.
I just did want to say something about community comments that I know in our board policy, correct me if I'm wrong, that you have to be a member of our community. You have to live in our district.
Yes.
So just not somebody from Oak Hills or Winton Woods or something could come and
Right.
speak at our board meetings.
We have
Right.
allowed that in the past, in
We-
the 3 years that I've been on.
We
But is there
we
something
allowed
we
that
vote?
once, and then we allowed it twice when, a couple meetings ago, but I think we should make sure that they are community members if they're gonna come and have comments about our district.
I agree, and I thought as they would come up, I would ask them to attest to the fact that they are living within the confines of the Northwest Local School District.
And when they do submit the card for, to speak, it does ask for their address, so it does,
You could validate.
it does validate that they are a community member. But yes, our policy does say that it is only for members of the community to
Right.
speak.
Is there any way for us to validate quickly before they come up to speak?
If we have it in enough time, yes, we can, there's a way to check the residency through the auditor, or the site.
Okay.
Darrell, would it be possible on that form, just so they attest to it? My address is, which is or is not in the Northwest School District?
We can add a line on there that basically asks them to check the box that they are a current resident of the Northwest Local School District, and we can, if time permits, make sure that we validate those before we get to that section.
So as far as, I mean, I think Jim's obviously talking about our booster president speaking and not wanting her to speak in the future, but she can, as the booster president, speak at a board meeting.
Yeah, about the boost, about the
Yes, about
boosters,
boosters.
Yes.
or whatever organization,
Yes.
not sit back and take shots at the board on decisions that we make.
And that would, for a organization like that, that would be the organization section, so they would probably not go during the community comments, but during the
Okay.
employee organizations. They're a support group.
And then
for
approval of
the-
superintendent items.
Yeah, for the consent items, under personnel, we have 5 resignations, 4 retirements, a change in status, 3 initial appointments, and then various supplemental items and leaves of absence. We do have donations of books from Ms. Potter to Houston Early Learning Center and a cash donation from Mrs. Lopez to Montford Heights. And we have vendor contracts that include special education services, music services, and business agreements for our benefits department. With that, the superintendent recommends the board approve the items as listed.
Any discussion?
Yeah, last January, we didn't have any leaves of absence, and then this year we have 12. Do we have a kind of idea, or are we worried about staffing at all going forward this year?
The leaves of absence are a rolling. They're always coming through our benefits department in terms of FMLAs. So it's hit or miss is when people are having
Sure.
things that they need to take off for. But from a staffing perspective, we haven't seen anything out of the normal in terms of where we are.
And the vendor contracts, Hamilton County ESC ADOS 2, what can you tell us what those are?
So those are special education services,
Okay.
and those are testing services for qualifying students for special needs.
So we just do up to 5, I think it's at a year.
And if we have students who need more than that, we would go back for additional contract services.
Okay, thank you.
Darryl, what percentage, I've mentioned in the past, when I started many years ago, the IEP rate in the Northwest District was 10%. That was 25 years ago.
We're a little over 17%,
17, okay. And free or reduced lunches was 45% when I started. What would that be now?
a little over 70.
Thank you.
The Highland excess workers cost premium for $60,000, can you tell us a bit more about what that is?
Yes, we are self-insured for workers' comp.
Okay.
So the Highland self-insurance premium is to protect us when claims would be above. So it's like stop loss to protect the district
Okay,
from
so every
a catastrophic claim.
January, we put that through.
Yes, it's an annual charge for stop loss insurance for our workers' comp to protect the district and the taxpayers for catastrophic claims.
Okay, thank you.
Is that like a gap, like a gap coverage? If there's a gap between what,
It's if it exceeds. So if a claim would like exceed $400,000, they would pick up anything above for the life of the claim.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other discussion? You have a motion and a second.
So moved.
second?
All right, and that passes without opposition. And Amy, fiscal consent.
Okay, good morning. First, I'd like to ask the board to dispense with reading of and approve the December 9th meeting minutes. And then for the month of November, we have our financial report. Our all funds balance was $97 million. Our general fund unreserved balance was $21 million. Our revenues year-to-date were $51 million, or 46% based on estimates, and our expenditures were $43 million, or 39%. December is halfway through the year, and that's usually when our cash balance also gets to the bottom, and then we start getting tax receipts again in January and February. Our interest revenue is 4.41%, or average rate of return was 4.4%. Remember, as the feds have been cutting rates, the rates will start decreasing down. But we were able to achieve an additional $1.4 million last fiscal year by taking advantage of the interest rates. In our list of monthly bills were our routine monthly bills, as well as we had some staff software licenses, renovations at Colerain Elementary, the topo survey at Colerain High School, the PAFR report. This is the cost of the full PAFR, and then we also got a donation to help reduce that cost. Our annual debt, principal and interest payments are due December 1, so they're paid in November, and some auxiliary and grant fund payments. So with that, I ask the board to approve the fiscal consent items as listed.
So moved.
Second.
Right, and that passes without opposition.
Thank you.
This is just an information item. We have our semi-annual policy updates, so many of these are standard updates based on laws that have changed, and so they're just technical updates to our policies. They're on here for information this time, and then they'll be on in February for approval, so if between now and then you have questions, please let me know. And then just to update a couple of things, one, just to, again, you probably don't hear it enough, but to say thank you to the Board of Education for what you do to continue to support the district, the students, the staff, and the families. Another thank you that we want to make sure we call out today is for our maintenance, our custodians, and our mechanics. During this past week, when we've had this winter weather, they have been out there in the weather, clearing lots, clearing sidewalks, making sure our buses and our vehicles are ready to roll. And so they have worked tirelessly, and they have done a fantastic job of making sure that our lots stay clear and stay safe. So as we are here this morning doing this, they are out there again trying to make sure that we have the bus lot ready, because we have field trips later today, and so they are out there continuously doing hard work and doing it very well. So we appreciate the work they do. And just to kind of cap off this week, we have obviously had significant winter weather. We've had to make difficult decisions about school, canceling school. It's not an exact science. We did send a communication to our families in December proactively sharing some of the factors that we consider. It is not an equation. It is not a simple decision. And these are decisions that we agonize over every day. We have to make that call because safety is important, and we want to make sure that our kids and our families can maintain safety. Our staff can get there. We also provide more than an education to our kids. It's a safe, warm, dry place with caring adults who know them by name, story, strength, and need, and a hot meal. And so we also want to make sure that we can offer that to our families as much as we possibly can. In a district as large as ours, 52 square miles, not every street is equal. And so we respect our families when they make a decision that we might be open, but they're not able to get their child to school. We respect that. We just ask that they call and notify the office so we can code that. But we collaborate internally, we collaborate externally with other districts, with a lot of different factors to try to make sure that we're making the best decision. But as everyone knows, weather forecasting is not an exact science either. And so we're working on the best information we have. We do try to proactively communicate with our families the night before, if possible, just because we know for a lot of families, a last-minute decision with childcare can be a very difficult thing to navigate. And so we try to be as proactive as we can. So we are thankful for everyone that worked this week to make sure that our lots could be open and we could be here for at least the 2 days we were open. And we're hopeful that winter is now over and we can move on to spring. But that may be a little optimistic, but thank you.
I have some questions. At the athletic meeting 2 months ago, I had asked for the survey results for the high school athletic survey, and you said you would get that to us. Do you have that?
I will make sure that we get that.
Thank you. And then also at that meeting, we discussst open enrollment, and you mentioned that you guys were having a meeting. Do we have an update on open enrollment?
So the policies that are on here now are our standard revisions. We are working on an open enrollment policy that would be addition to that. We also have additional policies that will be coming in probably February around special education, because there were some changes that are requiring some new policies around special education. So there will be some additional policies that will be coming.
Okay, so that in February, that policy around open enrollment, is it around have you guys been working on what hours would look like?
So the policy is kind of a standard policy, and then we would be modifying that. So we would be working on bringing a proposal of what that might look like to the board for open enrollment.
Are you
Okay.
talking open enrollment?
Because it was talked about at the athletic meeting, so we would work on a policy to bring to the board to see if the board was interested in open enrollment.
I think at the athletic meeting, I think there was good discussion around it, and that people seemed in favor at least of having the idea presented.
Yeah, so we're working on the actual policy that would come for, and it would be a 2-meeting cycle for information and then for approval, and then if it was approved, it would take effect for the next school year.
Okay, thank you for
When
that.
you talk open enrollment, are you talking just specifically elementaries or middle schools, or does it have to be the whole district as a whole open enrollment?
Most of the policies would be the whole district, so it'd be open for K-12.
But there's a lot of, just what was mentioned at that meeting is you put a lot of policies around like attendance, behavior, different things that kids are held to that, you have to follow a standard of our district. We want to make sure that we're. the
Yeah,
right-
and those are guidelines that typically go coincide with a policy.
Okay. Have you worked, or, sorry, Jim, go ahead.
No, go ahead, go
I was
ahead.
just wondering if you guys had met or talked to any other districts, because there are a lot around us that do it.
We've been in contact with other districts about how they do it.
Thanks.
This is a pretty big decision to decide to go down this path, because it will change, obviously, quite a bit of stuff. Should we do a work session so that we can kind of get down in the weeds about it as far as if we do pull the trigger on this collectively as a board, that we move down, that way we have an opportunity to kind of like vet all the nooks and crannies of doing this, instead of we do it and then all of a sudden we have something kind of hiccup on us, or we have an outcome that we hadn't predicted, or.
One of the things that can happen is, even when something comes to the board for information, it can lag. It doesn't have to come at the next meeting. So if it's a longer discussion, it could be presented for information, and it could have, it could be an item for discussion at a next meeting where it's an actual agenda item to discuss, or it could be a work session follow-up that, like, hey, there's a lot more than what we want to do in the middle of a meeting, and we're going to have a work session, and then it would come back. So there's opportunity to have multiple processes to make sure that the discussion is robust and full, and that you guys are confident with the decision that you're making.
Then would there, and I'm just thinking, would there be, or should there be an opportunity where the community could come and speak on, as far as like their feelings on opening the district up for open enrollment?
Yeah, so once it goes to the board as an item for information, it'll obviously be out there publicly that this is what the policy is. And that would be one of the reasons that if you said we wanted to extend more time for public comment, we could say that it's not going to go for approval for X number of meetings to give people multiple times to come and talk, if that's,
Sure.
so there's lots of options.
Okay.
The question I had was, I know a few years ago, you said that our middle schools were overcrowded. So is that still the case, or do we, say we had 100 kids that want to go open enrollment, and they're all middle schoolers. Would we have a problem getting those kids in there, or do we have enough room now?
We would have a problem. And so open enrollment it's an annual process. So if someone open enrolled in, it doesn't mean that the next year they stay, because the space would have to still be there. So it's an ongoing annual process to maintain that
And
open
this is how
enrollment.
all the other school districts do it also?
And I think you also said that you would look at each grade and say, okay, we can have 4 in
Yeah.
seventh grade, we can have
Oh,
fun.
okay.
Like, just
Yeah.
at that meeting.
Yeah,
it would-
okay.
Yeah, we would look at our enrollment, where we have space, and then we would plug people in. So even if someone was coming in and they said, hey, I'm a middle schooler and I want to come here, we would tell them what school we can put them in. They wouldn't get to choose, like, I want to go to White Oak. Well, sorry, White Oak is full, but I can put you at Corning Middle.
And what about Butler Tech? Say you got a kid that goes to Talawanda and wants to come down to our construction class, and there's a spot open, is that kid going to be allowed to come to our district?
If there was a spot in construction and the school. So if it was, yes, we had a high school spot open and construction, then the answer would be yes. That would,
Okay.
but yes, it would include Butler Tech. If someone open enrolled in, then they would be able to access our programs on our site.
Gotcha.
So if you open enroll and you say 4 middle schoolers can come and they come, what happens like in the middle of the year, say some kid wants to transfer from a parochial school into middle school here, and they live in the district and all the schools are full, what happens in that situation?
For district residents, we have to take them, and so those would be cases where we would have to find a place to fit them in or increase staff.
Okay. So would you at that time not always fill all the open positions with open enrollment in case something like that would happen? I mean, I don't even know how often.
We would
that
probably
happens,
have our enrollment caps not be at complete maximum, but give us some room for additional enrollments, because we do have throughout the year students that enroll all year long. We have students that will be new enrollees who start school in March, April, and May.
but- Okay. And so with open enrollment, you can do that, like, if they said you had 5 spots, you could still
We could cap
deny
it at
somebody?
25,
Okay.
and then we would still be able to take classes from, buffer from the community, but it would move our class sizes up to like the 28, 29, or 30.
We have a lot of, and I'm not sure if this is the exact right word, I've heard transient students where they start the year and like there's a population of, or a percentage of kids that they may start at a school and they're either at a different school, they inter-district transfer or leave the district completely, like that seems to be a kind of a growing trend. Is that a true statement?
About 12% of our population is mobile like that, so there's a mobility rate of about 12% of the in and out. But yes, we do have a lot of that, plus we already have a policy for intra-district transfers, where a family who might be at White Oak might put in a request for a transfer to go from White Oak to Corning Middle. And so we already have families who access different schools than what their home school would be through an internal transfer process.
And mobile is the word that is
The mobility
typically
rate.
one of the,
The mobility rate.
mobility rate. Thanks.
What's with the weather this week, like how the one day, when we talked about how cold it might be, do we have a threshold that we look at for like buses to start or for us to call it for cold weather? 'Cause that's-
So the National Weather Service has a chart that they put out there that kind of looks at cold weather at like a -20.
Okay.
We would probably not wait till -20. But
Those
yes,
must be
when it
inside
starts
buses.
to look at, that was one of the most stressful nights this week, was the
Sure.
wind chill. We were on the phone looking at the projection. Thankfully, that would have been a call that we would have probably had to make in the morning, just because you wait to see what the temperatures really are, and it wasn't as cold as they thought. But when it starts to get below 0, we start to worry. Our buses will still start, but just
The walkers.
and the bus stops and all that, yeah.
Up where my brother was a teacher, they didn't call school off unless it was 40 below or more.
Well, that was Alaska too.
Just a little.
Cincinnati and
FYI.
Alaska are two different
Just a
two different
little
worlds.
FYI.
And the footnote that it's Alaska too.
Yeah, it is.
Nicole, any further board comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the bus drivers, the maintenance staff, and all of the school staff as well. I know we only had a few days of school this week, but all those that helped with the safety of arrival and dismissal of our students. I think that the days that they were there, that kids were excited to go back, and staff probably were excited to get back into a routine, but really appreciate them. Also, email about Aaron's Law came out, so I just want to remind parents to review that curriculum. There is opt-out form if they so choose, but they have the ability to review the curriculum and contact the school if they have questions.
Nicole, remind me, what is Aaron's Law again?
It's the law that works with the kids around recognizing what abuse may look like from an adult. It's K-6 curriculum.
Okay.
It was the presentation Lori did last year.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
It's
an-
a state law.
It's
Yeah.
required annually,
Yeah.
but because it is around like sexual abuse, we give parents a lot of notice, and we will send multiple things out, because there is an opt-out. If you don't want your child to be exposed to that content,
Gotcha.
you can either call the school and review it before it's given, or you can opt them out, and they just won't get it.
You can also go on the website and review, on the Aaron's Law website,
Yeah.
and review curriculum if people are uncomfortable or want to see that in advance. And then also Safe Students Act, that's another one that just recently came out for House Bill 123, and that's high school around suicide and safe students. So another one for parents just to look into if they so choose. And just, I'm very blessed and excited to be starting my third year on the board. I will continue as I have, I'm in my fourth year, as I have the previous 3 years to, every vote that I cast will be for what's in the best interest of our students, our staff, and our community. And I just really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Mark? No. Jim?
No, I don't have anything.
Chris?
Yeah, a couple things. First of all, for those viewing at home, this will be the last time you see these friendly confines, as this will be our last meeting.
At this location.
In this location. I started here in 2001 and had some gaps in between. And so with that, I did go over and met with Chris and Daryl and toured the new facility that we're running for 2 years. It had to be done, in my opinion, because of the construction and buildings being demoed and so forth. But I was impressed with it, and for what we're paying, it's a lot of space, and it looks very good, and I'm very happy with it. And finally, this week, on Thursday, weather permitting, God knows what the weather might be on Thursday, I'm going to be driving with one of our bus drivers who drives one of the handicap buses, and full-size bus with a handicap ramp. I've done that in the past, and I'll report back what that's like and see how things might have changed in the since I did it last time.
And not to correct you, Chris, but you're going to be riding, not driving.
Oh, I'm driving. I'm driving, Daryl. He's going to ride. Did I say drive?
Yeah.
I'm going to be riding. No, I didn't know I said that. It would be kind of fun to drive one of them things. But anyway, I'm going to be riding with one of our drivers, and he suggested morning or afternoon. I said, what time do you start in the morning? He said, I get there at between 5:30 and 6. I said, what time do you have in the afternoon? And he said 1:30. So I said, that sounds like a better plan for me. So it'll be the afternoon on Thursday. I'm looking forward to a new year, my final year. The district has certainly changed, but it's still a good school district. We're a better school board than a lot of the ones we see on TV, where there's constant bickering and fighting and people who hold grudges. I do not hold grudges. I was brought up in my Christian family not to hold grudges against my fellow man and women, I guess I need to say these days. And I hope all board members can adhere to that, and we can move forward positively. And that's it.
All right, thanks everybody for your comments. I look forward to 2025 being a year of shared vision and collaborative work efforts. And I hope the Spirit guides us in our decisions and helps us to remember at all times we're doing this for the kids, not for any other reason, but for the development of our children in this community so that they can continue to thrive and we can have a wonderful district. And the teachers, their work is greatly appreciated, the staff, the bus drivers, especially your staff that was out there taking care of the parking lots early these days. And we wish that everybody can have a little bit of grace. When you send comments out to people, think first before you send comments. Think if it's really what you mean to say. People do not make their decisions lightly. They think very much through those decisions, just like all the snow decisions of this week, and any other decision made by the board administration are very thoughtfully gone through and not a rush decision or let's just get this done. So please remember that. You're not going to like every decision made. You never will. We can't always please everybody, but we are definitely here to work for the majority, to have everybody in the position they need to be so that they can thrive. So please think about that. Not that you can't give comments, but please think clearly and make sure that that is what you truly want to say and that you get your point across. And there's no need to be confrontational with name-calling and curse words, and that we can please just all have some respect for each other in 2025. And then I'd like a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, and that passes. Meeting is adjourned.